I did
Okay.
that. I did that, folks, because I think a lot of clubs are really going to want to know how to have great hybrid meetings, and Bellevue East Side and Jason have figured it out. So thank you, Jason.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. I'm going to just go big and go into spotlight mode for most of the presentation part as we talk about this. So first and foremost, my name is Jason Richard, as you can see. Oh, other way. Jason Richard, as you can see, there is my email. If you have any questions whatsoever, feel free to go ahead and shoot me an email. I've been talking with clubs and helping people with trying to figure out what's good hardware for them, what makes sense. Tonight, our discussion is really around the hybrid meeting. The purpose of it, how do we do it, how do we go through and structure things in such a way that these work well, right? I am president-elect of the Bellevue Eastside Rotary Club, a newer club around the Puget Sound area, and we're really focused on helping other service projects from clubs around the East Side. We have about 16 in membership right now, so we are in growth mode, trying to find great candidates who are looking for a club that's structured a little atypically from what we normally find. We welcome any and all of you at any point in time to join our meetings, whether they be online only or hybrid. But the hybrid meeting is something that I've embraced from a technology perspective. It scratches my itch to play with toys and be a nerd about it. But I also come from a little bit of a theater background. Back in high school, that's what I was majoring in college as well. So I understand a bunch of the technology that I'm going to be talking about around microphones and sound system and those sorts of things. And I'm happy to help anybody along the way. So first and foremost, I have committed to my current president, Tim Leahy, that certainly for this time period that we're in right now, where we're all locked down, of course, a Zoom meeting is the only thing we can do. But I have my fingers crossed and I have very high hopes that we have an opportunity to start meeting in person again. And for those people who want to meet in person, who are healthy and have potentially had the vaccine at some point, I truly believe an in-person meeting can't be replicated, but we can certainly do our best to include others who maybe are not in a position due to health, or as some of the folks were chatting about earlier, maybe they feel like they're a cousin of a club and they want to drop in, or I have committed to my clan that even if I'm on the road, like I want to connect with the meeting. So this gives people an opportunity to, if they're not in a position to show up in person, they can attend. And if they're not comfortable with social distancing or the lack thereof, or if they're on vacation, we happen to have a member in our club, Ms. Terry Lingenbrink, who is splitting some time with a second home. So she's tuning in from Tucson, Arizona, when she isn't up here in the Bellevue area. So there's a lot of power and there's a lot of support for this. And it's ultimately something that I don't think we necessarily have to do forever, but I've committed to my president and then through my presidency, which starts in July of this year, throughout my tenure, and my president-elect, who's coming up behind me, Mr. Brett Magnan, has also expressed interest in maintaining that the hybrid meeting is something we continue to do moving forward. It allows our membership to engage how they would like, what's best for them, and give them an option. And hopefully keep that attendance nice and high, make sure people are engaged, keep our clubs vibrant. So that being said, there's a couple things around Zoom in general that totally applies to a hybrid meeting. So one of those things is we want to be well lit, right? So there's light panels that you can buy. If you're in a dark room, which I actually am in our regular meeting space, you should bring some sort of a light source to light that speaker. There's a number of battery powered options. There's a number of plug-in options. I'm sure a lot of you have heard about ring lights. Those are round shaped lights that you can use to light your subject. They're shaped like this. And then once you turn them on, then they just cast nice, even lighting. And there's lots of ways that you can do this that is somewhat discreet, so it doesn't necessarily take away from the in-person experience, but we want to make sure that our subjects are well lit so we can see the speaker. The next piece is really about microphones. Microphones are core and essential to capturing your audio appropriately. If you guys look, I'm wearing a headset right now, but I'm going to go through just a couple of quick steps. You'll be able to hear some big differences as I switch some things from my headset, which is very close to my mouth, also does some nice noise canceling things, so it takes away from a bunch of the background noise.
Or if I switch to my webcam, this is now a very different microphone. You might be able to hear my wife typing. Her desk is about 10 feet away from me. There's a little more ambient noise. And as I'm farther and farther away, you hear less and less. The other option is a quality microphone, which you can hear here. This is a microphone that I use for presentations, for voiceover recordings, things like that. And basically, here's what I recommend, and here's what I've set up. For our club meeting, my president is seated in the same position all the time. And so I've set up a microphone, not necessarily on a big boom arm like this, but I'll show you his mic stand that I have that uses a microphone that's very similar to this. Very high quality, very sensitive, captures great audio, and a little bit of the background noise, but it makes it more pleasant for the viewers. So our whole goal is to capture good video and good audio and pump it into Zoom. And that's really what the goal of the hardware is.
Okay, so I am going to allow everybody a peek into my reality of insanity that I call my life in my house, because I hate it when I try to hold something up and you guys can't see it. That doesn't help anybody. So what I'm going to go through is show you the toys that we use, the technology that we use, and some of the pieces of it. So first and foremost, you're going to need a camera. So I have this great small footprint tripod that extends up. When you buy a webcam, you want to make sure you purchase a webcam that has a tripod mount in the bottom, okay? Because this allows you to put it on the tripod, then you can move this around the room. You can buy just about any tripod you want. I found this one that had a pretty small foot. You can go to Adorama or B&H Photo, anything you'd like. You could go to Amazon, go take a look at it, but you want a decent little quality one. Don't get a little plastic one. But this allows you to have your camera freestanding. I will share a photo here real quick because I want you guys to get a sense of our room. Now, this is before COVID. This is when the Attorney General came to speak at our club, but you can see a typical layout that we have here. And this layout is what we would normally do. So what do we do in COVID times? Well, this table is scooted back, this one's scooted over, and we have the president sit at this table here. So I would stand a microphone just up here, and sorry, the webcam, and point it at the president, and then the president has his microphone right there as well. So within that room, we also have the rest of our membership who may be joining us in person. Having the webcam on the tripod allows me to just turn it so that we can have other people speak. So how do we get audio within the room? Well, as I mentioned, let's see here. There we go. So here's the microphone that the president uses. Sits just right on the table, right in front of him. It's pretty easy to talk over the top of and address people. Again, as I said, having a good high quality microphone for the primary speaker is always a good idea, right? We want to capture that audio the best as possible. Pretty much any microphone that you buy that's good for podcasting has a good brand name. I wouldn't go buy the $50 karaoke machine and use whatever microphone came with that. Having a podcast microphone, something like a Yeti Snowball, a Blue Snowball, or a Blue Yeti. Blue is the company who makes them. Those are a couple of good ones. I particularly like Audio Technica is the name, and this model is called the AT2020. This is designed to be connected to an XLR or a microphone cable, okay? So how are we going to get the audio into Zoom? That's probably our next step. There's a reason that we need all these things, okay? And I'll draw this out on my iPad in just a minute. But having a soundboard that we can plug in multiple microphones into allows me to do a few things. In our club, I spent a little bit of time designing some layout in that buying specific microphones for specific purposes. I have lav mics, a wireless lavalier mic for guest speakers, so that way they're not rooted to one spot. They can wander around. So then the only responsibility would be try to pan with them with the webcam. I have wired microphones like the one where our president sits. And then I also have these microphones that are ambient microphones. So this microphone will just sit on a table. It's got a bunch of long cord, plugs in, and this gives ambient microphone in the room. So it allows our membership who are attending in person to talk, and the people on Zoom can hear them. So during our social hour, there's usually a conversation going on within the Zoom call with some of the people in the room. So this allows people to be able to communicate with the folks on Zoom without having to go up to the main microphone. So I'm sure you're all wondering, how does this actually work? Great, we plug all this stuff in, then what do we do? Well, let me go through and get my iPad paired up here. Come on. And we will get this shared. Share screen, stand by, folks. Oh, they don't have the plugin, okay. Well, we'll try and get this installed real quick here. Bear with me. All right. I will be right there. Okay. And we're going to here. Thank you for your patience, everybody. All right, here we go. You guys should now see my iPad. And I'm going to try and, pardon my chicken scratch, I'm going to try and draw a couple of things out for you guys. So one piece of hardware that your room requires is it's going to need a TV. You need a screen, right? You can't just set this up on a 15-inch laptop and have that be a good experience for the people in the room. The people in the room want to see the people on the call, and the people on the call want to see the people in the room. This is how we're bringing it all together. So one of the core things you're going to need is some sort of television, or projector and a screen would work just fine. Okay. Then you'll still need a laptop. And let's put a little keyboard on this so we all remember what it is. Okay. So on the laptop, we're going to connect to the TV. And this HDMI cable, it's going to allow us to extend our desktop up to the TV. That gives us two screens. So just like a lot of the people who are working at home, we've got two screens now. We've got the screen on the laptop, and then once we launch the Zoom meeting, we're going to move it to the TV. We're going to move that screen up to the TV. So that way, everyone in the room can see everybody who's on the Zoom call. Then we're going to have our soundboard, right? And we've got our inputs for the microphones and stuff with a bunch of knobs. And I'll talk about specifics for the soundboard that you guys want to look for in a little bit. And into that soundboard, we're going to have a microphone. We might have an ambient room microphone. And then we might have a wireless or handheld microphone. Okay. So we're going to take the USB audio, and this is one of the requirements for the soundboard. For the soundboard, you need to find one that has USB I/O. That's what you're going to look for on it. And that I/O means interface. It means it's sending signal out and hopefully receiving signal back in. Because this is based on, this setup that we use is predicated on the fact that audio from the TV is pumped into overhead speakers. So that allows everybody in the room to hear what comes over the Zoom call. Now, if you don't have that, if you only have a projector that doesn't have audio, you're going to have to run speakers off of the soundboard. So you need a USB cable that connects the soundboard to your laptop. So in the Zoom call, you're going to select the USB as your audio source or as your microphone. Then for the audio output, you're going to pick HDMI. You're going to pick the TV. For most of the current smart televisions, they'll show up with their name. They'll usually say like Samsung TV or something like that. So we have our audio in coming in from the soundboard, our audio out coming out from the TV. And in our room, of course, the TV has overhead speakers. And in this scenario, the great news is that you really don't deal with a whole lot of feedback, right? We don't have to worry about getting the big squeal from the microphone if somebody walks in front of the speaker, because it's going through this USB interface and we're not going to get feedback over it. When you do this, if you wanted, you could certainly record your meetings, but you have to understand that much like on this call tonight, we're on a call. So the only way that I showed up big at the beginning is that I selected to spotlight the speaker. So if you wanted to record this, you'll still need to select who the speaker is. And that would also be something that we put right here, right, is we need our webcam on the tripod. Okay. So those guys connect up there, and that's really all the pieces that you need. So for note-taking and for homework for you guys tonight, really what you want to think about is go through and decide a couple of things. A, how much does the club want to spend on this, okay? You could spend a lot of money if you really want to, but the reality is if you already have a laptop, you could probably get away with, I'm going to throw out a number of less than $500 to support this. I tend to be a little bit of a thrifty guy, and so I go through and do a fair amount of eBay shopping, looking at some used stuff, and there's also an opportunity to do some research for older models. For example, this particular soundboard. So this board is made by a company called Mackie, and this is the Pro FX8. Okay. This says the 8 means 8 channels. So that does not mean 8 microphones. All right. This one in particular has 2 channels right here. 1 and 2 are mono channels. These 2 are stereo channels. So when they say channels, think of it as stereo audio has 2 channels, left and right. That's 2 channels. So in this 8 channel, I only have actually 5 sliders. Yeah, I only have 5 independent sliders that I can use because some of them are stereo channels, so they take up additional channels. This is the first generation of these. They've come out with 2 more generations since. And if you're looking online, if you're looking for photos, what you really want to do is make sure that if you look at the USB interface, just like at your printer, you want to make sure it's this USB-A interface, or sorry, USB-B interface. This square one means that it's passing data back and forth. If all you see is the USB, like your USB charger port on top, then that's usually only for audio files. So that means you could plug in a USB that has a bunch of MP3s on it, and it'll play that music. But fundamentally, what you need is this USB interface, the USB I/O. And you want to really take a look around at doing, finding ones that do, they'll be described as 2/2. So 2/2. That means 2 channels out, 2 channels in. You may see some more that have, 6 and 2 or 4 and 2. But if that has it on there, then it really should be okay to use in this fashion. And sometimes you just got to call up one of the music stores and ask them. Tell them what you're trying to do. Tell them that you're trying to capture from a bunch of microphones and send it out to a computer to share as an audio source, and they should be able to help you. It looks like Ed has a question here, using wireless or Bluetooth battery-powered camera and/or microphones so they can walk around the room. You certainly can. I don't have any personal experience with using a battery-powered camera, but certainly with the microphones, I love wireless. I'm a wanderer when I'm on the phone, so I highly recommend that you get something. This particular brand is something that we've been experimenting with, Kimafun. I got it off of Amazon. I think they're $50 a piece, something like that. What happens is that they have a receiver, and you can see that this is a 1/4-inch jack. So on my soundboard, you plug the receiver right into that, and then you've got a nice, simple lavalier mic with a wireless sender. And the current, a lot of the current ones, they're great because they're all USB rechargeable. So you can just charge them up overnight. You don't have to burn through a lot of batteries trying to make sure that this works all the time. Realize that the more, certainly in the microphone world, the more you pay, the better the quality. I mean, I've got microphones that are certainly more expensive than that, and the wireless mics tend to have what they call higher gain, and that is really how much of the audio is captured and how loud is it as it comes through the microphone. And the higher the gain, generally, the easier it is for you to share it and manage it. From a hardware perspective, I think we've talked about just about everything. So let's talk about logistics. How do we do this? Fundamentally, you're going to have somebody drive the meeting, and not like the business meeting, but somebody has to run the laptop, has to listen to the audio. Typically, I sit at the mixer board. I have a set of headphones that I plug in so I can hear what's coming in to the audio, so I can adjust volume levels accordingly to make sure, because if I can hear them through my headphone, then it'll go out to Zoom, and Zoom will auto balance a bunch of your audio. So they will try to make whatever audio you send in a good audio level for the listeners that are out there. They do the best they can, but they're not necessarily magic, but they do adjust some of those levels. But fundamentally, we run a meeting. I open the call up and then leave the room mics open. So as members come in and attend, they can talk with folks that were up on the Zoom call. And then after our socialization time, which is 4 to 4:30, at 4:30 we start the meeting, and we have everybody please mute themselves, and then tell them, hey, if you want to comment, feel free to unmute yourself. That's fine. But obviously, good Zoom conduct is something that we reinforce, and we ask all of our membership who are attending over Zoom to help us out with, because it certainly helps us stay more focused. And we've had some guest speakers come and actually meet in person. They were willing to come and talk, and we had a great time hosting them. So I put that wireless lavalier mic on them, and that worked out really well. But we're also finding that guest speakers want to attend through Zoom, generally a little bit easier for them from a time perspective, but also from a health perspective. They may not be in a position where they want to be within arm's reach or within contact with people right now. So it's not just for the membership, but also for your guest speakers. There's a number of there's a number of microphone options that are out there. I mean, you can get really good ones. I would encourage you to budget appropriately and put a realistic number down there. If you're buying microphones for $25, they're probably not going to fit the bill, and they're not going to have a great experience for your folks. And then that story being said, these guys, these room mics, they retail for about $60, but a little bit of time on eBay, and I found a pair of them that they were selling for $25 a piece. And they were brand new. So you can hunt and peck as much or as little as you want for everybody out there. If you wanted to see, there you go. So it is the Audio Technica Pro 42 are the ambient room mics. And Ed asked me, do I turn the mics off on the table when the formal meeting starts? Yes, I do. I meant it when I said we are the happiest hour club. So one of the things that happens to transfer very well is the sound of glasses being put down on the table, beverages being put down on the table. And when that microphone is sitting on the table, that vibration can transfer straight to the microphone. So I do generally turn those off. But we are doing, in lieu of the president, oh geez, you can tell what's on my mind today. In lieu of doing the Pledge of Allegiance, we are doing an American moment where we're looking back in history and encouraging our membership to come up with a great story about America, this great country of ours. We're doing that because obviously, as we all know, living in a Zoom-enabled world, if we were to stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance, anybody on the call, our head goes off the screen and you're just sort of staring at our midsection. So this is what we're doing. And so as we have different club members doing an America moment across various meetings, then I'll turn up their individual microphone that might be on their table, or we'll have them come to the front of the room. I will absolutely, I'm reading and talking. So Larry has asked if I could put together a list of equipment models that I think are worthwhile for you guys to take a look at. I certainly can. The list would be very extensive, and there is something that I'll share with you guys. Kathy Gibson, who is our district governor, shared with me a resource that I'm going to share this screen over here right now. I will make sure that you guys get this URL, but they put together, the Global Impact Group put together a very well thought out and very well documented form all about how to do hybrid meetings and how to set these things up. Now, they're doing multiple laptops. They're doing a number of things a little differently. They did talk about some of the hardware here. So this is the club laptop and setting these things up. It does give you a little more of a step-by-step. So if you guys want to go check it out, go check out the Global Impact Group, so tgig.org. This document is free to download. And they have a few things listed here. So for the Blue Yeti, and I'll show you that microphone here. So this one would be great for the on desk or the main speaker, this guy right here. So the Blue Yeti microphone, that guy runs about $130 or so. And a webcam, this is showing the Logitech C920, which is the webcam I'm using right now. There's another company called Amcrest that's, of course, with everybody working from home and doing Zoom, webcams were a little tough to come by. So there's another company called Amcrest, and that's the one that I use for our club meeting that works out pretty well. It's got an even wider angle camera lens, and a wide angle lens is something you really want to see. And then you may or may not need a speaker. If you don't have any sort of audio system in there, you should get a powered speaker, something that you can plug into your laptop through the headphone jack, and then you'll get amplified sound out of it. And then a projector and screen monitor or television, right? So in my club, we're using the television and that audio stuff. And yes, Ellie asked if there's some vendors that carry most of these things and they've got good salesmen. A lot of that stuff has gone online. So B&H Photo, Adorama, A-D-O-R-A-M-A, Adorama. Those are both big online retailers, and most of them will have people who you can call, explain what you're doing, and they'll give you some advice. You can certainly check with the local Guitar Center. Sweetwater is another one, or shoot me an email, and we can certainly talk about your situation. Although I just said that to 35 of my closest friends, my email inbox may be flooded here pretty quick. Raymond asked if bandwidth is an important consideration. It is. You would really ideally want to have an internet connection that has at least 5 megabits up. So as you can see in the document over here, you want to have high-speed Wi-Fi. A minimum of 5 megabit upload is ideal. Okay. Here at my house, I have 15 megabit upload, but I do a lot of presentations and those sorts of things. If you guys need to hotspot off of somebody's cell phone, make sure they've got really good signal. See if they've got an opportunity for a 5G phone. So if you can get on a 5G network, you can get some of these 5 to 10 megabit up. And then obviously a Zoom Pro license, because you don't want to be limited to a 40-minute meeting. This is really a great picture, right? This sort of layout of what they have set up there. What they're doing, rather than just a webcam around the room, is they're doing another host laptop, and you could use the built-in camera that's in the laptop. But I'll tell you, the picture quality and the flexibility of using an actual webcam is much better. And if you want to get really fancy, I mean, there are certainly technology groups who will come set this up for you, help you run it. I spoke with the Seattle 4 leadership team last week, and they had shared that they had a media group come, and they were recording and filming some of their meetings. So the first question I would ask anybody who's trying to set these up for the club is, have you spoken to your membership? You really want to take a look and see if you have an opportunity to leverage the talents that are already in your club. Find out if anybody has ever run a soundboard. Has anybody ever been involved with theater or band, anything like that? And they'll be able to help guide you in picking out some quality hardware. Let's see, what else? If I was to do this all over again, and I'm constantly reinventing things, I will drop the link for this in the group here. Let me just send chat to everybody here. So the tgig.org, that is where anybody can go get this resource. Very helpful, and I'm sure there's some folks who would be happy to help answer any questions over there as well. If you take a look at what's out there, podcasting has become very popular, and so therefore a lot of their technology and their hardware is very applicable in this scenario, because they are capturing audio and moving it to a digital space. So what we really just need is the output. There's a new soundboard that just came out that I would say is probably ideal. The cost, of course, goes up, but there's a company called Zoom, not the video conferencing, but they make digital audio recorders, and they have a live track, which is spelled L-I-V-E-T-R-A-K, the live track L8. Which is great, has a bunch of capabilities as well as recording capabilities, but has a sound bank in it, so you can record some sounds and things if you wanted, and definitely has more sliders that you could put more microphones. So as you're thinking about planning, figure out, hey, how does your club work? Like, how do you guys run your club? and what's a typical flow. If it's fairly standard, the president gets up, he talks, the speaker, and then the president gets up and closes, and it's all from a podium. That's a pretty straightforward implementation. You don't have to have the room audio and all that if you don't want to. But if you want to empower and enable some more of that group interaction, then you're going to want a couple more microphones to sprinkle out around the tables. And I would encourage you to start with what you think is going to be a pretty good minimum, or what's the minimum you want to provide, and then you can always add on to it later, right? But that gives you an opportunity to do one thing, and that thing is to ask your people who are attending online, how was it? Please give us feedback. Could you hear? Did you see everything okay? Did you have a good experience? When we go and ask for that really true, honest feedback, then we can grow and adapt to fit what our groups need. So I got feedback from a number of folks on one of the microphones that I was using previously, and they said, it's just too quiet, we just can't hear it. So I went and bought new microphones that seem to be working a little bit better. But really, that's the place to be. I think the majority of our clubs have members who really want to participate, they want to plug in, and the best thing that we can do is support them in any way possible. So how do you clean the microphone between speakers when sharing? That's a very good question. Annette, thank you for asking that. Right now, we're not sharing microphones. And with the ambient room mics, they are sensitive enough that they will pick up. And we are socially distanced in our meeting room. And at the time that we were doing hybrid meetings, once we were seated, we were allowed to take our masks off. Now, we meet at Duke's in Bellevue, and they have some very specialized equipment that they have an ionic cleaning unit that's part of their HVAC that actually puts out specific ions that not only trap molecules, but also prevent them from staying on surfaces. So our room and the space that we're in has been pretty well modified to accommodate life in a pandemic world. And so the people who were attending in person felt comfortable with taking off their mask. And with the microphones that are sensitive enough, they don't have to get close enough to put any sort of moisture on it. And fundamentally, if we have a microphone sitting here that nobody's touching, then whatever happens there happens there. Now, after these meetings, you can get some rubbing alcohol, some isopropyl wipes. So just like the Clorox wipes, which you could use those too if you wanted, you don't want anything sopping wet, right? We got to remember these are electronics. So just some light moisture material would be fine to wipe down microphones and those sorts of things. But that's another consideration for you as to how many microphones do you have, and basically how many lavalier mics, because that's another thing that is a quick and easy thing where you don't have to hand it off or pass it off, those sorts of things. We're also doing some online games. So as part of our Sergeant at Arms has been playing Wheel of Fortune. We did a little Jeopardy one time. There's a website you can go to called Trivia Maker, where you can custom make your own games. They have Jeopardy, Wheel of Fortune, and Family Feud. Those are sort of think of how the structure is of how that game is played. And so we've been doing some games that way to enable some fun bucks or fines for the Sergeant at Arms. We've actually hooked up Venmo to our club bank account. So if people get fined, they can actually just send the money and it goes through Venmo and ends up getting deposited in the account. So I would say largely that the hybrid meeting has been a great experiment for us, something that we've been very blessed to have an understanding membership who works through the problems with us, and it's very helpful that way. But this is something that, as some of the early chat before the webinar started, as somebody mentioned, they really think that this is something we're going to need to do moving forward. And I agree. I don't believe that we're just going to get to a point where we flip the switch back on and everybody goes back to normal. We're going to likely be dealing with repercussions and aftermath of this through probably the next 2, maybe 3 calendar years before everything is back to normal per se. So the website again that has the games, triviamaker.com. You can go check that out, and it's pretty inexpensive. I think a 1-year pro license that allows you to make your own games and stuff, I think was $19. So it's not the end of the world by any means. But what other questions do you guys have? Is anybody? I'm going to go ahead and remove the spotlight here, and I'm going to go back to a grid view where I can see everybody. Let me see. And let's do. Can I do that? No, that doesn't do it. Gene, I'm not quite sure why you're front and center there. Maybe. Oh, gallery view. Here we go. There we go. We got it. So what do you guys got going on? Who has questions? Who's trying to do this now? Does anybody want to jump in?
I have a question.
Yeah, go for it, Chris.
Yeah, on the TV you were talking about overhead speakers. Are you referring to plugging that into a speaker system the room has, or are you talking about the speakers that are in a TV?
Sorry about that. So you could use either or. In the room that we're in, Dukes has already wired that room where they have overhead speakers where the audio from the TV goes into their overhead sound system. So if you're meeting in a restaurant, or some sort of facility that already has overhead speakers, they probably have a TV or a way for you to plug in your audio into that overhead speaker system. And that way everybody can hear a little bit better. But you could just run it off of the speakers in the TV if you wanted.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Let's see, what did I do here? Yeah, go ahead. Hi, Ruth Ann.
Can the Trivia Maker work on just a regular Zoom call? I mean, if it's not a hybrid meeting and not all, you could work it on like this call.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So it's based on a couple of things. First of all, to really play well, you're going to want to have 2 screens because there's a presenter, which is where whoever drives the game, that's where they click the buttons and you say whether you got it right or wrong and assign the points. And then you have the game window, which is what everybody else sees. So we're back to that 2-screen idea and what screen do you share? But yeah, it's pretty straightforward that way. And just so everybody's aware, we are on a very tight timetable. So I've got about 8 minutes to 6. We've got about probably, well, I'd say about 7 minutes before we want to shut this down because there's another call that comes right at 6 o'clock and I want to give them time to get in, get settled, and get started. Who else? Any other questions? I hope this has been helpful for you guys. Thank you for joining me tonight. I really appreciate you guys taking the time. I think when we look at what we do for Rotary and how do we best continue our mission, if you will, this is one of the ways to keep our clubs vibrant, to keep our members engaged. It's important that we do everything we can to accommodate people, to accommodate their individual situations. Not everybody wants to get together. Not everybody's in a spot where they're capable or comfortable. So how do we meet those people where they are? So we've proven across the social world, across the business world, that we can do things remotely. We can work remotely. We can go to a digital environment and have a positive experience. So how do we do that? I think hybrid meetings is a great way to do it, and we'll do the best that we can moving forward. I'd encourage you to spend the time, invest the funds, find a way to put together a quality experience for your club. And again, just as a quick finisher, I will throw up one more time. Here's my email address. Feel free to go write that down, shoot me an email. If you guys want me to talk to your leadership team, talk through your scenario, help you figure things out, I'm happy to do that. And other than that, please be safe, be healthy. Thank you all for joining. And Jean, thank you for the use of the Zoom account. And certainly, we'll see you next year, next Rotary year. I'll be president of my club, and anybody who's in pets with me, we'll see you next week. All right, guys. Thanks, everybody. Have a good one.
Thank you so much. Night, everybody.
Bye. Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.